Walking Macau Streets. Dear Lord, show me a sign. Give me a map. Oh yeah.
Okay, I kind of got a little bit of a sad one because this is going to be about Cules Street and Cules Pátio. And if you don't know what Cules is, you can see the images behind me. But these are basically like indentured slavery. And this was something that was happening predominantly in Macau from 1851 until it was outlawed in 1873 for 22 years. And I'm using some of my references, like this particular book that you can see, and there's some pages about this street and what they were like. And I'm also using this one too, which has more information with some history as well. But both of them kind of have, actually there's so many different books. Behind me, I'm just going to put down all these tons of different books about the Coolie trade, Chinese Coolie trade, and a lot of it was in Macau. And so basically, when I was reading this book in particular, they talked about these little catacombs. So they would take Chinese people. Sometimes they would trick them in different ways, or they agreed, you know, through maybe trickery as well. But the basic consensus, basically what happened though, is they ended up in these streets. And I think that this Cules Street and Cules Pátio was probably where they had a lot of catacombs, or maybe even businesses as well, like brokers. And they said that a lot of the brokers were actually Chinese as well, and they would bring in Chinese people from the mainland and bring them to Macau, and then the Portuguese colony was this kind of they would move people around. So a lot of these people ended up in Cuba. According to this book, Cuba is one of the big destinations. The largest one according to that book. This one also has Cuba, as well as Caribbean, Gold Rush, California, and Peru. So basically there's some history here. And this is just the aftermath of what it's like in 2024 when you walk down the streets. It looks pretty normal, very typical, but there's some history in here that, you know, maybe isn't that great. But anyways, I want to show you what the streets look like, and it is part of Macau history, and there are streets that are named after this trade that happened 1851 to 1873. And just to give you a little bit more background, that was kind of a volatile time because, you know, Hong Kong became more powerful, you know, more people were putting their money and time into Hong Kong, and Macau was pretty desperate for money, and that's when they started opening up fantan houses and gambling dens and opium, and then also the slave trade. So it was like a desperate time where they were trying to get money in kind of nefarious ways. Nonetheless, I know what you really want to do is see the streets, as do I. I want to see them again as well. So another one of Macau here, and I know it's a little bit of a sad topic, but it is part of the history, and it is two streets are named after it. Macau. Pew. Okay, so this actually is a reference to slaves, dos Cules. So what I'm going to do in this particular video is I'm going to film around this area a little bit and kind of give you an idea of some of these alleys, and I'm also going to just put on some images of what I know about the slave trade in Macau while walking down the street. So we're going to slowly walk down it and kind of check out this whole neighborhood. I'm also going to go to a Pátio and show you that as well, which has the same name, and I'll do some speculation, and I'll also do a little bit of history about it too, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so that's Cules Street, and then this one is just kind of give you a little bit of a background of this area. Mercadores is a street of the marketplace, so street of the markets, and this street actually kind of angles around into an interesting way, so you can really get to know the city well. And what I'm going to do in this particular one is I'm going to explain the Cules trade, and I'm going to put up a little man, and he's going to do all the explaining for me. And I'm also going to just walk down and just film this street and what it looks like, so you can get an idea of what Cules is all about. Oh, that guy is really interesting. That particular guy in the yellow shirt, I think he's a local, but I think he's like, I don't know, we'll probably walk up there in a minute. He'll come by in a minute. He'll probably ask for money, so we'll see. we'll capture him on film in a minute. So anyways, that's going to be part of the interesting thing about this particular city. Oh yeah, that's usually what he... So we're going to walk all the way down, but on our way down we have these little alleyways that go all the way up, and then we're going to go... Oh, actually he speaks Cantonese. I always thought he was Filipino, but he's actually Cantonese speaker. But he often he's usually in this area, so you'll see him quite a bit, and he's an interesting character. But anyways, I don't want to say anything negative, but he's around here, and that's kind of funny. It's not funny, but it's he's a familiar person around this area. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, so this particular area is called Cules Street, and we're gonna just kind of show you some other stuff around, including these little alleys, becos, which are little alleys, and then this one here is named after prominent Portuguese person, Dr. Suarez. Down there is Seattle Square. And we are going to walk back down Cules Street, and I think what I'm going to do is I will try to educate a little bit about the history here. And there's a sign right there. It says Rua dos Cules. Hey. So we're gonna go down. Oh, okay, I guess. So let's just go down. So this Cules Street is connected to another one. It also has a patio. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the Cules Street from what I know, and then I'll add more later to it. And so basically the reference is to the Chinese trade in particular. And I think as I'm filming right now, I can kind of see what I'm going to do. So what I'll do is I'll share images with a little guy, and then we'll walk all the way down to the end of this particular street, and then we're going to go to a patio that's also called Cules as well. And these little patios are kind of what this other one's going to look like, but they're like little dead-end streets. And we got one that's going to be the same name, and I can only speculate why these streets have them, but this would be one. And just to kind of make a reference point, let me just see here. There's Mercadori Street all the way down that way. So that's our starting point, and then actually Cules is down that way. Then this street is actually a different name. So this one is not Cules Street. I think it's, we'll see the name of it a little bit later. I think it's like Customs House Street in Portuguese. So we're gonna walk up, and then also, so this whole street, I guess like Customs House, where when you came in off the ships, which is down this hill, we'll show you that too. So historically, when you came into Macau, you would come up this street, and then there's this street at the top is called Customs House Street. This is right here called the Street of Happiness, Felicidade Street. And this is kind of give you some reference to how this street used to work. There's these streets, there's these two-story buildings. So one would have like sing-song girls, or sometimes opium, or bars, saloons, or fan-tan gambling houses. And they would look like this. So one person, they would use the top part, maybe for business, and then this one would be the commercial area. So that's all called Rua de Felicidade. Now it's all kinds of different shops, including this Indonesian Naughty Nuri's restaurant. That street's called Chicken Street, Galinas. So I can guess that maybe they sold chickens in that area historically. And then this street is called like Customs House Street, which in Portuguese that would be Customs House. And so historically when people would come in, they would have Felicidade Street, Customs House Street, Cules Street, the Slave Street. So I think they were also dealing with those as well. So we are going to go up this way. And then there's another street with Cules here too. And it's basically a little patio. There's a Filipino restaurant right there, La Mesa. Here's a Filipino salon. You can get your hair cut here. This is Cules Street. Yeah, and we got a little patio right here too. Same name. You have a little shrine at the base of the patio, which is quite common. It's active, there's incense. And so I always wondered if this area had like how they would do this. And that other street too, there's like Slave Street and Slave Patio. And Cules would be the English word coolies, and I think it had to do with more like indentured servants from mainland China who were kind of tricked into going to places like Cuba and California. They also went to South America and worked in the silver mines. There was a connection here between silver in Bolivia and Acapulco, Mexico and Philippines, Manila. And so with those commodities being moved around, there was also the movement of indentured servants. So anyways, hopefully that kind of gives a little bit more story about that. So yeah, so nonetheless, there's 2 streets named after this trade, and now you got to see them as well as another slice of Macau. So you got a little bit of history along with your street traveling. And I know we're gonna end. So there's Cules Street right there. Then the other Cules Street was down there to the right.